Welcome back, everybody. It's Paul.
And Steve.
And we are here today to discuss another topic. Now, before we get started, I want to welcome everybody back, tell everybody thank you so much for watching this series. We hope you've been enjoying it. Thank you, everybody, again, for all the comments that you have left. And we do have a channel that we're starting, which is just going to be Steve and I. It is called
Steve and Paul Discuss It All.
That's right, Steve and Paul Discuss It All. There will be a link in the description down below. Go ahead and click on that. You can go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and that will let you know whenever we put up a new video. We are hoping to get at least 2 videos up each week on that channel, just to let you know. And eventually more. So we're definitely gonna need your help and your help with suggestions on topics you would like to hear us talk about.
And since we're going to discuss it all,
Yeah.
any suggestions would be great.
That's right, that's right. Including, I wanted to just acknowledge the people who have talked about the audio quality. We're filming in a room with a kind of a high ceiling here, and we're just using the microphone on the camera right now. Neither Steve nor I are very technically savvy. We are looking to fix that at some point, but just please bear with us in the meantime. So, all right, today's topic is
the 3 novels to reread. So 3 of our favorite novels that we liked, that we enjoyed, that meant something to us, that were special at a point in our lives, or that we just really enjoyed reading, that we think deserve a reread.
Absolutely, absolutely. So 3 novels, or nonfiction, or fiction. All right, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Why don't you start? That'd be great. I'd love to hear yours first.
Okay, so I do have an honorable mention in case we duplicate. Okay. The rest to see if we hit any duplication. So these are in no particular order, just so you know. I'm going to start with an author that I don't think I've ever read a book of his that I haven't enjoyed, and that's John Grisham. The book that I picked, and really I could pick probably any of his first 10 books, but the book I'm going to choose is The Runaway Jury.
Ooh, yeah.
So if you're familiar with that, or if you're not familiar with that, the premise of that is it centers around a court case, kind of around the real life tobacco litigation from the 90s. And of course, there's a twist in there where there's just a lot of behind the scenes courtroom antics, if you will. And I think John Grisham in his early career wrote courtroom thrillers like nobody else I've ever seen.
Yeah.
His pacing was really good. He always picked good subject matter, and the dialogue between the characters was always very, very interesting for me. So that's going to be my that's going to be my pick for John Grisham.
Yeah, well, and you're right. John Grisham probably had 8 or 10 novels that could have been on this list. So I have a John Grisham choice as well. It's not that one, though it certainly could have been, and it's one of my favorites. And one of the things I like about John Grisham is that his novels are true to life. That these are not just issues that he's coming up with, which would be great and make for great fiction. But I think what draws me into the stories is their character stories and plot-driven stories that are in many ways true to life. And being from Mississippi, having grown up there, I kind of have an affinity for John Grisham as well. So my John Grisham novel, though, is A Time to Kill.
Oh, another great
one. Love that book. It's like The Firm. I like the book better than the movie, but the movie's great as well. Yep. But love the book. I'm familiar with that whole area, Canton and Yazoo City and that kind of area in Mississippi, and have been there many times and spent time there. But also, I understand the conflict that goes on in the book, the racial tension, the love that this dad has for his daughter, and would lead him to do something that would seem to be irrational, but is perfectly rational. And I think that what John Grisham does is he's not preachy in the book. But he captures an issue that really needed at the time, and obviously continues to need attention. And so it's the human condition. I think that's what stands out to me about that book. He really captures the human condition and addresses it in a way which is, once again, true to life. It's not utopian, and that he writes, with the pacing, with the dialogue, with the coloring in of you feeling like you're in the courtroom and the drama that's there. Just excellent.
It is, and that's an interesting point that you brought up. That's something I think John Grisham does so well. Is he writes characters that oftentimes are doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. Yeah. And he poses those moral questions that as a reader, you can't help but thinking to yourself, what would I do in that situation? And there's no good choice. There's no choice that satisfies everything perfectly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it really is a dilemma.
It is, but that's what makes it so great.
What makes it great.
All right. So yeah, John Grisham, like you said, and so yeah, Time to Kill was a good movie. Runaway Jury is a bad movie.
You don't even watch
there's no way around that.
Read the book.
Read the book.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So I guess I'm up again.
You're up.
So I'm going to throw out the author first. Stephen King.
Of course.
Stephen King has several novels that I've read several times. I've got one that is my absolute favorite. Probably read it about a dozen times. Stephen King, for me at least, is an author. He's very prolific writer, very iconic writer, has written some absolute masterpieces. But he's also written some really strange stuff. That it's just like, wow, what were you going through?
You wonder what's in his head.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's totally okay. But the book for me, that's an absolute must reread. I probably read it at least every couple of years, sometimes more often. Is Pet Sematary.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness.
I just love that book. It has a movie also. It actually has two movies. It has a movie and then a remake of a remake. Yeah. Again, go watch the original movie. The remake not quite as good, I don't think, but different. They did it differently enough that it's interesting. But the book to me is good just because Stephen King has this way of writing great characters and then putting them in crazy situations and kind of asking that question of what would you do? Right.
And that question of what if, in Stephen King's book On Writing, which if you ever wanted to write or even understand what goes into the mind of a writer, it's a great book, and it's almost autobiographical. In fact, most of it is autobiographical, and he talks about how his books essentially come from just a situation. So what if this happened? What if this were true? And then the whole book kind of comes out of that question of what if.
Yeah.
And what he's able to do in writing the novel, and Pet Sematary is one of the best examples of this, is that he really is able to weave a story that brings you into and back to that what if. What if this were to happen? How would you handle it? And to show that each of the characters are having to deal with that what if situation in different ways.
Yeah. And I think for me, a common thing for me with adventure, sci-fi, horror, any of those genres is you've got to have a legend. And Pet Sematary of Stephen King's works, that's one of those books that he's got that legend.
Yeah.
He tells it so good, where Judd and Lewis Creed are talking about the Micmac burial ground and what it means, and and Judd's kind of playing the cards close to the vest.
That's right.
First. Yeah. But just the way that book unfolds and the way that suspense and horror unfolds, to me is just a great example of that genre.
And I think you hit the key word there is suspense. That especially when it comes to novels, horror is sometimes hard to pull you through and carry you from beginning to end in a massive long story or a big novel. But suspense can just take you. You're turning the page because you don't know, everything has been suspended, and so you're wondering what's going to happen next, what's around the next corner.
Yeah, and it's really neat because over my lifetime, so I saw the movie before I read the book, and as a preteen that saw the movie, and then I went and read the book, the place scared me. What was beyond the deadfall, like that their Little God Swamp in Upper Maine. The place scared me because it was just spooky. It was otherworldly. It had this power that kind of drew you in and made you do things you wouldn't normally do. And to me, that was just terrifying. Now that I've gotten older and I'm an adult, like the idea of the loss of a child is a scarier thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just the dealing with, with just the different dynamics of that. And of course, that's where the novel came from.
Right.
Just posing the question of, what would you do?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm interested, and we would be interested in hearing from you, for the books that you've read, the novels that you read, how many of them did you read because you saw the movie first? It's happened to me a lot. You go see a movie and you think, well, that's a great movie, and maybe you didn't even know there was a book behind it.
Yep.
And then you go and you read the novel. So, to hear which comes first for you. Does the novel come first or does the movie come first?
That would be great. Leave those comments down below.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
so my next?
You're next.
Okay, so I'm going to go with I love this novel. I actually have not read this in a long time.
Okay.
And so in thinking to do this and thinking about what novels I'd like to reread, this is one I'm now going to go reread. It's back on my list to read again. I love it. I've read it several times in the past and look forward to reading it again. And that is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, okay.
And one of the interesting things, we lived in Aberdeen, Scotland for a while, about 3 years, and there's a castle just north of Aberdeen. It's called Slains Castle.
Okay.
So it's in ruins. It's one of these classic. I mean, when you think classic ruined castles, Slains Castle is one of them. Well, purportedly, in the late 19th century, this was a place where a lot of very well-known and elites would go, and they would have parties there and that sort of thing. And purportedly, Bram Stoker was there, spent the night there, and was inspired to write Dracula from being in that castle. And so we've been there many times, and it sits out on this cliff and looks over the North Sea. It's a classic setting. And so that the first time that I actually read Dracula was having heard that story. I went and I read it and was just really, really drawn to it, and look forward to now reading it again. It's just, I've read it a couple of times in the past, and it's a reread that's probably been 15 years or so since I've read it. Look forward to reading it again.
Okay. So that's a book that I actually haven't read.
Yeah.
Now I have watched Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola,
Right.
which is a masterpiece of a movie.
Yeah.
Despite how you feel like Keanu Reeves being forced.
Yeah. Just overlook that.
But I have never read the book. So does that movie track the book pretty well?
Pretty well.
Okay.
It's the screenplay diverges in a number of significant places. The overall plot and storyline is there. I think there's greater emotion and drama in the book than in the movie.
And I think that is pretty standard.
Yeah.
Because Pet Sematary was the same way.
That's
There's
right.
a much greater depth of character from the emotional side and psychological side. Okay.
So I recommend it. It's probably not a novel that not a lot of people have read, but certainly would recommend reading the book as well as seeing the movie.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on to our third pick. All right, let's see, I'm struggling with this. I've actually got a couple written down here. All right, I think I'm going to have to go with an author that sadly is no longer with us, but Michael Crichton. Mm-hmm. Most of his novels have been made into movies. He's the author of Jurassic Park, Great Train Robbery, Andromeda Strain, Congo, but the book that I'm going to pick is Sphere.
Oh, yeah.
So sci-fi, again, ignore the movie, Dustin Hoffman. It's such great actors in the movie. Dustin Hoffman, Samuel L. Jackson, Sharon Stone, and somebody else. Donald Sutherland, maybe. Yeah. Great actors in an okay movie. The book is absolutely fabulous. Mm-hmm. Sci-fi book about these people that are taken from the surface of the ocean to under the sea, at like 2,000 feet under the sea, where they're isolated. And then just dealing with the unknown as well as having to deal with each other. Yeah. And the adventure that unfolds to me is just, it's really great. It's very suspenseful without going to the horror, but really exploring a lot of sci-fi elements. And for my money, nobody did that better than Michael Crichton. He was just so good at writing about very technical scientific concepts and making that accessible to a person who didn't really understand why.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Just like with Jurassic Park, to translate science and science fiction for the common person, and to create an ensemble of characters that in the books, in all of his books, works very well, as opposed to a single character that you're following through, like maybe a John Grisham, or a single focus on a character. You have this ensemble of characters that in a movie is either going to be very, very good, like Jurassic Park, or not very good, like Sphere. And so the book and the screenplay don't always translate into the same type of success.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So that's a great book, though.
So yeah, I've probably read it about a dozen times, and I love it. I love it each time.
Yeah, I need to go back and read that one again. It's been a while, but it's a great book.
It is. It's
I need to put that on my reread list.
All right. So what do you have as your number one?
Okay, so my number one in this, I'm going back again, and there's one of the reasons why this is a reread for me is because this is an author I really like. He's almost a niche author. Some people don't like him at all. Others really like him. 1929 won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Has just a whole host of classic books. Again, another Mississippi author, and that's William Faulkner. And there were several to choose from, but I really think my favorite Faulkner book is Absalom, Absalom. Okay. So Absalom is about a family that had come to Mississippi from West Virginia, poverty-stricken, had come before the Civil War, in order to try to find wealth and power. And so the story of their rise and demise is told with kind of these flashbacks, and the main son of the family goes to Harvard, and he's seeing the demise of his family and what has happened, especially in post-war, post-Civil War Mississippi, and how they had been able to gain all this wealth by being slave owners and taking from others, and then it's all lost, and they're trying to rebuild their reputation. And his biggest concern is the reputation of his family. And it's just, Faulkner is a marvelous writer, very earthy writer. He captures humanity and the human condition. And like we've seen with some of these other books, he really presents some dilemmas here. What are you to think about your family's reputation when your wealth and position and power were built literally on the backs of other people? And again, Faulkner just captures that very well. And in this book in particular, it's a reread. I've read it several times, and it's just one. Every time I read it, there's something more gripping about the book. And of course, it's taken from the biblical story of Absalom, who was the son of David, that ended up rejecting his father's wisdom and bringing disgrace on the family, and so which is what drove Faulkner to choose that title.
Okay, so I'll admit, I've never read anything by Faulkner. Not for any reason. It was just in school I was never exposed to any of his works, and just when I go to the library, I just never really thought about it. I'm kind of visual. I'm kind of one of those people that either I'm going on a mission, like I'm going specifically for this book, or the cover has to jump out at me.
It's not going to happen for any Faulkner book.
So I'm going to have to go. I'll have to go check that one out. Yeah. That sounds good. I mean, the story sounds really neat, and I do really enjoy those books that present a dilemma. Yeah, and
it's kind of almost a companion piece to The Sound and the Fury, which is probably his most popular book. But it's I actually enjoy Absalom a little better.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for our 3 books. I feel like we could have had at least 3 more.
I know, that's right.
Or so
we could have had 3 Stephen King novels to reread.
We could. That'll be a discussion for another day, I guess.
Yeah. I'd love to hear the novels that you enjoy. Finding new authors, Paul, is always enjoyable. So if there's someone that that you like to read, you think would be a good read for us, we would love to hear who those authors would be.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because I do agree with that. We talked about it in another one of our videos. During this time we've been in quarantine, I've gotten to read some books that I normally wouldn't have read just because I went to the library and picked up a whole bunch of stuff.
That's right.
By the cover.
Yeah.
All right, so yes, please leave those comments down below. Let us know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That would be really cool. And make sure and check us out over on Steve and Paul Discuss It All. And we'll see you guys next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you.